Welcome to EnVision Center News, where we discuss community impact and involvement with today's nonprofit leaders and philanthropists.
Virginia, hello and welcome to the podcast. Very glad to have you here and talking about your podcast on our podcast. Kind of a bit of inception going on here. But before we get into what you're doing today with your partner, Caitlin, tell me about yourself. Tell me about your upbringing, your education, little job history. I want to know it all.
Oh, yes, story time. Well, my name is Virginia, and I am a co-host of a podcast called Talking Blondes with my friend and co-host, Caitlin. And that started really because of my own personal mental health journey that I probably started about 10 years ago. I'm originally from Florida, and I always wanted to move out of state and try a new place. And so I actually moved to New Hampshire for a little bit. And then I met my husband and moved out to North Idaho, which I absolutely love.
So Florida, New Hampshire, Idaho.
Yep.
What drew you to New Hampshire? Did you have family there? Did you have a connection there already?
Yes. I have some family that lived there. So I actually got to know the area just from visiting them. And I love New England. That's another beautiful part of the country. And so I thought for my first big move, why not be a little bit close to family? But I was really on my own 2 feet for the first time in my late 20s. And it was one of the best things I did for myself. Scariest, too, by far.
Yeah. Okay, and what were you doing in New Hampshire? Were you just working, or were you in school?
I was working. I was really just trying to build a life just for me. So not exceeding everybody else's expectations of me. I just really wanted to figure out who was Virginia and what does she want out of life and what is she willing to do to go do that. And I had every intention of healing, but I have come to learn that inner work has to be paired with an action plan. So it's nice to want things, but you have to still go and do something, put effort into it. And I was lacking the tools and resources to be able to build healthier habits and systems. And that's what I felt like my life really became when I moved out to North Idaho.
Okay. So met the husband in New Hampshire, moved out to North Idaho. Okay, why North Idaho?
Yeah. Well, it's actually funny. Growing up, I vacationed in North Carolina with my family, and I fell in love with the mountains. Yes, mountains on the East Coast are not the mountains out here. I was definitely schooled in that for sure. But I was like, gosh, I love seasons and I love the mountains. And I think ever since I was a little girl, growing up in Southwest Florida, very different terrain and climate, I told myself, one day I'm going to live where there's mountains in my backyard. I don't know where, I don't know when, I don't know how, but it's going to happen. And I actually met my husband on Instagram,
Oh, really?
of all places, when I lived in New Hampshire. We are both total nerds, and I had a picture of a black and white dragon on my Instagram for Game of Thrones. We're both fans of the show Game of Thrones. And we just start talking, and we joke about, that's how we got through winter. We were just bored. And we found, the fellow weirdo to talk excessively to. And probably about a month or so into that, he was like, well, I would love to come out and see you. And I was like, oh, I don't know about that, because that sounds a little too serious. But he did. And of course,
so he was in Idaho
started.
when okay.
Yeah. And then I came out to North Idaho for a visit just to even see if I liked the area. He also has 2 kids from his first marriage. So there was other variables that had to work out before we really could move forward in the way that we wanted to. And of course, I fell in love with Coeur d'Alene. So he took me out to Tubbs, as we know, that area in downtown. And I even think I started walking away from him, like, you can go now. I'm in my happy place. So thanks. He's like, looking at me like, okay, there she goes. And then the kids and I just totally kicked it off so well. Circling back a little bit to my upbringing, I actually I raised my younger siblings since I was 14. So that was not foreign to me. What was foreign to me was being in a relationship. So I never really navigated that before. So I moved out to North Idaho and, living with my husband and just figuring out this whole dynamic. It really challenged me because I really felt like my marriage, my husband was my mirror to show many things in my life that I was running from or that I wasn't ready to fully accept that that's what I needed to heal. But I started looking into things I didn't before, like inner child healing. That really helped me. I started listening to podcasts and start working with other life coaches. And that's actually how I became a life coach myself, helping other women navigate marital issues by reconnecting with themselves through all the work I've done.
Okay, so you had a life coach yourself. This was after you moved to North Idaho. You got one.
Yes.
And so then that person was so helpful, inspiring to you. Then you're like, that's what I want to do.
Very
as
much
well.
so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And what is the certification process, or what do you do to become a life coach?
That's a great question. You can definitely look into certification programs. I did not, because I didn't find one that truly aligned with what I wanted to do. So I do rely on my experience with working with coaches, as well as a background in some mental health training. I do have a goal of eventually getting certified. There's some coaches out there that I really respect their values and their programs, especially relationship ones. But really, this is just all from self-learning and from working with other coaches myself, and with some mental health background.
And what does it, I guess, actually mean to be a life coach? I feel like most people have probably heard the term before, but I think life coaches can probably have a wide range of areas of expertise
Very
and
much
things.
so.
So if you could kind of break that down for us, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of coined as the Wild West out there of coaches. So you definitely want to be mindful of the coach that you want to work with. Absolutely. But it really just comes down to somebody you feel comfortable with about opening up about some things that maybe you didn't open up before, or maybe you have, but just didn't really get anywhere with it. I have found that coaching is a great supplementation sometimes to your mental health. I'm still an advocate for therapy, as I was a patient myself. I've worked with therapists before. But the difference between therapy and coaching, at least in my opinion, is coaching kind of helps you put together an action plan to move forward. We can definitely acknowledge and recognize the past. However, this is to build your life past that. So I feel like I kind of do a blend of a little bit of mental health and coaching with that, because some of the things from our past still kind of show up in the life that we're trying to build. So it could be anything from perfectionism to people pleasing, to real trauma, our relationships with our parents, and the pressures of just everyday life. So to really talk to somebody, be like, okay, I get all that, but what do you want? And then start to work towards a plan.
Okay. So a therapist is maybe often probably step one and then once they're,
it's a good way of putting it.
They've sorted some of those mental health issues out, and maybe they haven't completely healed or whatever, and then it's time to make the plan, and that's where a life coach can really come in and help move forward.
I love that you put it that way, like the step one. That's exactly how I look at it too. It's kind of like a graduation, which is a cool reframe to be like, wow, I've outgrown this. I'm ready for that next step, that next level. And that's where coaching could come in. Yeah.
Okay. And then how did the podcast get started?
Yes. So I've actually kind of thought for a while about like, what would it be like to have my own podcast? And then my co-host, Caitlin, was actually my first coaching client when I started this a couple years ago. And we just had such amazing conversations that at the end of our coaching program together, we were like looking at each other, do you want to start a podcast? Do you want to start a podcast? And we did. And it took like a year to really put it all together. We were just so passionate about it. We wanted to put like our 110% into it. And we launched Talking Blondes this past August. Yeah.
Okay. And it's about life coaching, or what is it really? What's the focus of the podcast?
Great question. So it is mental health and wellness based. It's like having two girlfriends, two of your friends with like talking over a cup of coffee and having very deep conversations, but with humor and lightheartedness and some coaching wisdom. But yeah, it's just to have these more nuanced, maybe complex conversations and like put the Caitlin, Virginia spin on it, whatever that means to anybody listening. But definitely hearing, hopefully, people who care. Yeah.
And so every episode, kind of, you pick a different topic.
Yes. Yep. And some of them can be quite heavy, and then some of them are fun. We just did one on millennial pop culture.
Yeah.
So that was so much fun. But just an episode before, we did one on narcissistic parenting and relationships. So
How do you pick your topics, and how far out in advance do you pick your topics?
Oh, good question.
Do you schedule things out for like the year, or do you just kind of go week by week?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. We put together, well, Caitlin actually did this, put together a spreadsheet, and we just listed a bunch of the desired topics that we wanted to have. And then I think we're basing them off of mood too. Like, okay, do we really want to go there? Like, what's our intention with this episode? And then her and I will take leads in, or turns in leading it, just so we have a little bit of that balanced load between us, because we do come in as prepared as we can with research, with questions for each other, making sure whoever's listening feels like they're engaged with us.
How often is the podcast?
Every other week.
And do you do that year round, or do you take some breaks throughout the year?
We actually, I would say for the month of December, because of the holidays and everything, that was our first quote unquote break. But we've pretty much been on the same schedule since we launched.
Nice.
Yeah.
And, sorry, playing footsies with you. And I think you said before we started recording that the life coaching wasn't actually how you met Caitlin, is it? Right. So tell me about how you met her.
Yeah. So, okay. Everyone so far who's know Caitlin and I and have been listening to the podcast knows this name, Amanda. So another shout out to, she's going to be a future guest star one day.
Okay.
We have that in the works, but she is my childhood best friend. We were 6 years old when we met. We were door-to-door neighbors in Tampa, Florida. And a couple years later, her family moved to Ohio. My family moved further down south in Florida, and we've been long-distance friends ever since. And Amanda attended Kent State University in Ohio, and she met Caitlin. And when I would get on the phone with Amanda, I just heard about this amazing girl named Caitlin. And Amanda kept saying, oh my gosh, you two are so much alike. I just hope one day you get to meet. Well, we got to do that at Amanda's wedding. We were both in her wedding party. And it was like seeing an old friend, but somebody I also haven't met, like physically. And then we stayed in touch over social media. And then Caitlin, a couple years ago, was kind of at a crossroads in her life. And she was open to coaching with me. And that's how that all started.
And how does someone know that they might need a life coach? Because for many people, the idea is going to be so foreign.
Sure.
Like, what kind of situation, or maybe it's a way that you're feeling, you're confused about your future, or something big happens in your life, or something big isn't happening in your life and you want it to, or what? How does someone know, maybe I should look into getting a life coach?
Well, that's a good question. I would say, looking back at it when I first was open to it, I think that's the first thing, is just curiosity, genuine curiosity, and leading into it. So actually taking the plunge to hopefully what you can have is just a free consultation with a coach, and they kind of just brainstorm with you on like why you are interested in coaching and where you want to be and things like that. But I think it really just starts with genuine curiosity and being in a season of your life where you are mentally, spiritually, emotionally open to trying something new.
And how does somebody find a life coach? Do they just Google life coaches near me, or?
Yes, actually, that is how that can work too. We do have some coaches in our local area, which is really cool. For me, this was a friend, actually, of my sister-in-law and my brother, the family that lived in New Hampshire. So they had this friend who went on to become a life coach, and I just always adored her. That's the other thing too. Sometimes it's just jiving with the right person. And I always loved her personality and her humor and her outlook on life. I felt like she was not just a life coach for me, but someone I was able to tap into myself spiritually with. And I think that helped tremendously, because spirituality, however you look at that, I think is a key component to our overall well-being. So we can definitely go after the things in life. We have our markers of success, we have our goals and everything, but holistic coaching is really what I do. And this is about returning back to yourself. So those doors can open for you without force or without any internal conflicts or resistance. So when I worked with my first coach on that helped a lot. And then I realized too that I still had some inner child wounds from my past that were interfering with the relationship that I wanted with my husband. And so I started working with an inner child coach who is, without officially being, I consider her to be one of my mentors. She is a fascinating, amazing human being. And I started listening to her podcast called the Inner Child Podcast. And after a while, I just reached out to her and I was like, this is what I'm struggling with. I don't know what to do anymore. I think my marriage is coming to an end and I could really use some help. And I had a session with her that I felt like was like a breakthrough session. And I felt like I was able to do some of the work on my own, which is an option for people too. Some people don't really always need their hand held during the process. And then I would say a few months later, I started looking into just how to become a wife. And so pairing, I think, womanhood, divine femininity, and inner child healing is kind of like this cool blend of the person I kind of became in my marriage and my relationships. And
what is it you've I'm not going to say it exactly correct, but you talk about like going back to yourself. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah. Well, can you imagine your younger self? And in that moment, what comes to mind when you first picture her?
A small version. I see my body like a small. I literally see me small. 4 feet tall or 3 feet tall or whatever. And for some reason, I'm outside running around.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can see like there's a smile maybe on her face.
Yeah, I think so.
Does she feel carefree?
I think so.
Yeah. That's reconnecting with your younger self. And it's kind of bringing that into your adult life. So maybe it is more outdoor time. Maybe it is more playfulness in our lives. It's that balance. Like I had this tool that I used earlier in my coaching was a visualization. It's called your circle of life. And it's got this pie chart, and it's sliced out in all these different areas of your life. Some areas you're thriving in and doing great. Some areas are just not as fulfilled. And those areas that are not as fulfilled sometimes affect the areas that you are doing well in. And you start to wonder, like, what's going on? Like, I'm happy, I'm doing X, Y, and Z, but you're still not as fulfilled. That's where coaching might come in, holistic coaching, to kind of remove those barriers that you might still be stuck in and come back to like who I think we all are in our quote unquote purest form when we're children, and bring her back out. Because from what I've realized so far with inner child healing, mine more comes from my teenage years. That by just acknowledging her and giving her space to be seen, to be heard and grow, but through my love, through my maturity, through my wisdom, that is how I'm able to grow into the woman that I am, because she's very much a part of me still. So,
okay. And do people have to because we talked about you get a life coach because you're kind of ready for the next step of making a plan. Do you have to have a goal kind of already set to use a life coach? Or what if you're like, I don't really know where I want to go or where I'm going. I just know I need help to get there.
Yes. And actually that could be a lot more fun for the ones who don't actually have a clear vision, because I feel like then that's a great opportunity to create one. It just may not be in the way that you thought it would be. So maybe it's actually addressing the things that you're still hanging on to. Maybe it is from the past. Maybe it is those expectations, or the pressures, the perfectionism, the people pleasing. I just happened to have a new consultation earlier today, and it was exactly that. She was like, I don't know what I want to do or what I want to be. I just know this isn't it. And that's just enough to start coaching.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is life coaching something that people just pay out of their own pocket, or is like insurance, or what ways can people pay for life coaching? I'm not sure how it works.
That's another great question. It is mainly out of pocket.
Okay.
I don't know of any. Maybe there are coaches who have done so well and they've got bigger platforms. They can actually offer free services or even be part of nonprofits. The coach I mentioned earlier, the inner child coach, that's exactly where she's at in this season of her life. She has done so well where this past year she was able to open a nonprofit and offer free services, which is fantastic. Yeah.
You mentioned, again, before we started recording, something about how community is very important for your podcast. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So Caitlin and I were long distance. So she's in Ohio, I'm in North Idaho. And I really felt like since moving out to North Idaho, I've built a community. And I just know some amazing women who I admire. I admire their story and their values. And I was like, how cool would it be? Because there's a lot of female entrepreneurs in the North Idaho area. Like, how cool would that be to have them on a podcast just to generate awareness and community? And Caitlin has a similar vision for some people she knows in Ohio. And then just having this more like local-based community is part of our vision.
And so you're now bringing like local folks on as guests, or is that something that's coming down the road?
That's something in the works, but we did have our first guest a couple weeks ago. She was actually from the UK. This was so cool. This was someone I followed on Facebook a couple years ago. She has a community Facebook page, and she is known for healing from narcissistic parenting with her mother. And she's went on to do amazing work in all of that. And I just really resonated with her content. And I just felt like she'd be a great person to have on the podcast. I reached out to her and she was all for it. And we had her on a few weeks ago, and that was such an amazing experience.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. And yeah, so now you're just going to keep it going.
And we're going to keep it going. Yep.
Yeah. How many, so I could do the math, but roughly how many podcasts have you produced now at this point? If you started in August and you go every other week.
Yeah, I think we're coming up on our 15th or 16th one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think, don't they say most podcasts don't last past like 5 or 10 or something?
I heard that.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but it's fun. It's fun. And I am grateful that I'm in a season of my life I'm able to do it and commit to it. But yeah, it's pretty cool to just be like, yeah, I've got a podcast.
And I have this bank of episodes. You really do. You have many. And how long is each one?
That can vary on the topic and how much we want to talk in Talking Blondes. But it can range anywhere from an hour to even 2 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're long form.
They are.
Put it in the car while you're driving, you're taking a road trip or whatever, if you got that long commute to and from work. And so you hit different topics from kind of a life coaching sort of mental health perspective. But the podcast isn't necessarily for someone who's needing a life coach, right? It's just, you just want to learn about these topics or, take a deeper dive on whatever topic or just be entertained. Like the pop culture one was probably more of just a fun, entertaining one.
Right.
I'm asking this really, I'm asking the long way, like, who is this podcast for?
Yes. That's a great question. At first, I really thought the podcast would be kind of a supplementation to my coaching, but it's kind of turning into its like own entity, which is great too. And so our intentions with it and our audience is definitely for, I'd say, women, even young women, just navigating life, or they're married or have kids, and just want to maybe have just those real deep level life conversations that they feel like they might not be able to have with their circle of family or close friends. And hopefully Caitlin and I think we do, it comes from a very healing place as well. So sometimes when we're listening to mental health content, the source is really important. So if it comes from a grounded, healing place, that changes the conversation, right? Versus from like a wounded place or a place that you can tell like the person is still in their maybe early stages of mental health. So I am hoping for the most part, like it's women feeling like they're at a table and they're able to just be themselves. Vulnerability is a big one on our podcast. That was actually our first episode on vulnerability, and just kind of normalizing these conversations because life is too short. So,
And how long did it take you to come up with the name, the brand?
Well, it took a while. But I actually remember how I even got the name. Are you familiar with the artists from the 80s, Talking Heads?
Yes.
So I'm listening to a Talking Heads song and I'm bopping along and I'm going, Talking Heads, talking blondes, talking blondes. And I immediately messaged Caitlin. I was like, I think we've got our name. And she's like, yes. And I had ChatGPT come up with the logo. I just kind of envisioned like two blonde ponytail silhouettes with some pink. And I was like, here you go, have at it. And I was like, nailed it. And so that's our logo. That's our brand.
And is Caitlin a life coach now?
She's not.
Okay.
She'd be a great one. But she's not. But she is a huge advocate for healing, self-growth. And that's what's so great about coaching is you can come back to it any season of your life. So I'm really big on evolving and, self-growth and development. So sometimes we just need someone to help us to get through that last push, or maybe it's more long-term because something really major happened in our lives. But that's what's great about coaching is like it's always something you can pick up later in life.
What does Caitlin do now for a living?
Yeah, so I know she can work remotely, and she kind of works for like this marketing department for like this medical company. Yeah.
Okay. So nothing really. No, I wasn't sure if she maybe worked in the. Not that she needs to at all, but I wasn't sure if she had like a mental health background, sort of like you do.
Yeah, she. I know when she was in school. I know she looked into certain classes for like psychology, and we're both kind of in that mental health space where we're both patients. We sought out therapy, and. I mean, I was on medication. So these are things that, I'm very familiar with, and I'm really big on just like whatever you need in this season of life to give you hope, to get you back to a healthy baseline, then I'm all for that.
What's been the most surprisingly fun or joyful part about doing this podcast with Caitlin?
Well, I get to do it with Caitlin. I joke that we're kind of like light and dark energy. So sometimes I joke like sometimes in my gremlin energy and she's got Disney princess energy, and the two are just so amazing together. But doing it with her, because she just brings such lightness and joy, and she's just a breath of fresh air. So that alone is huge for, I think, the podcast. And I think, too, just doing something totally out of our comfort zone. But like having fun with it at the same time. I mean, it's kind of cool. We're over 6 months into it, and we've kind of reached almost 400 streams and downloads, and we don't even really advertise or anything like that. And what we were talking about earlier before we started to record those clips, that's what really generates a lot of activity. Yeah. So I started a YouTube channel just with those clips alone. And, we have a small following, we have a small community, but they're the dedicated ones. And it's just so cool to get feedback from people. They'll message me or Caitlin and be like, I just want to let you know that episode really meant a lot. And we're just kind of like, what?
Yeah.
Like our podcast? Because I keep thinking like, there's other podcasts out there that are way better. But I think it just, again, goes back to that whole, like on that local community level, like somebody knows you and they're listening to you and what you have to say. It's like, wow, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and then you got to start somewhere.
Got to start somewhere.
And like I said, you made it past that 5 episode or 10 episode or whatever it is that most podcasts don't make it past. So I feel like once you make it past that, you're golden. You're on the trajectory up at that point. Gosh, what else is there to say? Is there anything else that we need to make sure that folks who are listening know about the podcast, about you, about maybe the services you offer, anything that you want people to know?
Sure. Well, for Talking Blondes podcast, we are on Instagram, Talking Blondes podcast, and we're on Spotify, and we have the YouTube channel. For my coaching, I do offer one-on-one coaching. And so if anyone's interested in that, they always get a free consultation call. And then we just kind of go from there and discuss the options of moving forward. But I do have a website and Instagram, and it's Virginia Herb, HERB coaching.
Okay. And are you trying to convince Caitlin to move out here, or what's going on with that?
Well, we were just talking the other day. She's like, I want to be next to the ocean. I go, okay, that's not North Idaho. But what about mountains? But North
Idaho's not too far away from the ocean. I mean, you can still get there easier than Ohio.
Right. Yeah. It'll be very interesting what might be on the horizon for her. But I love North Idaho. It has been the ultimate healing place for me. So that has a special place in my heart.
Yeah, it really is. I'm not from here either. I moved here a few years ago, and it really is just the best place ever. I love it here as well. And everybody says that. I mean, you can't, or people move away, they grow up here, they move away, and then they're like, I had to come back because there's no place like it.
There is that too, yeah, which speaks volumes.
Absolutely. Well, we will tag the information about your podcast, and, we'll be sharing out information about where people can find you and the podcast on social media. This has been a ton of fun. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. For more information, you can go to CRECidaho.com. Please like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you again soon.